Today, we are going to do a little bit of time traveling. Let us cast our minds back to the year 2016, and I'm going to share with you my favorite summer reads from the past 10 years. Hello book friends, I'm Jen, and welcome back to my reading life, and welcome to a time travel video. I'm just kidding. But we are going to be going back in time. I thought it would be fun to do a little reading retrospective and take a look at some of my favorite summer reads from summers gone by. We are going to head back in time, starting with the summer of 2016, and I'm going to share my favorite read from the past 10 summers. I went back through my reading journals and looked at everything that I read from June 1st to August 30th from 2016 to 2025, and I picked my favorite or most memorable read from that year, and I'm going to share them with you now. So settle yourselves in and let us take a journey back in time. Let us travel all the way back to 2016, and I was trying to think what my life was like back in 2016. I had a 3-year-old or almost 3-year-old, so we were in the throes of the terrible twos at that moment in time. I remember that I wasn't sleeping a lot still. I was still getting up sometimes very early or being up in the middle of the night with a toddler. And so my reading definitely reflected that. And that particular summer, I didn't read a ton that year at all. Really the first few years of my son's life, my reading had really kind of slowed down because I was in the thick of motherhood and very sleep deprived. But the one book that definitely stood out when I was looking back at my 2016 summer reading was The One in a Million Boy by Monica Wood. This book, I can remember finishing this book and thinking to myself, I want to be Ona Vitkus when I grow up. Our main character, one of our main characters, is Ona. She's a 104-year-old woman, and there is a young boy who is helping her out in her garden. I believe it's part of like a Cub Scout, Boy Scout project. And while he is helping out Ona, she is kind of telling him about her life. And then one day he doesn't show up, and his father ends up coming to see Ona and to finish what his son had started. And you kind of go along with the story from there. I will say that there is a truly sad and tragic event that happens in this book. So please look up trigger warnings for this one if you are considering reading it. I just adored Ona as a character. I thought she was so wonderful and engaging. And while I can't remember all of the specific details of this book because it's been such a long time since I read it, I just remember the feeling that it left me. And that was just one of sort of cathartic healing and that sort of found family that you find in books. And I just absolutely loved it, even though I sobbed in this book for sure. It is that kind of a book, so definitely know that going in. But it has remained on my shelf because it's definitely one I want to reread at some point, and I just think it is lovely, and it is for sure the book that stands out to me out of everything that I read in the summer of 2016. Now we're going to flip the calendar forward to summer 2017. And in 2017, my favorite read of summer couldn't be more different from the first book I just talked about. And that is Stories I Only Tell My Friends by Rob Lowe. This is one of Rob Lowe's memoirs about his life in Hollywood, and it is pure delight. Rob Lowe, I had no idea I liked him as much as I did until I listened to his memoir. He was just an actor that I knew who'd been in a lot of movies that I've seen, but I didn't particularly feel one way or the other about him until I listened to him read this book. And please, if you're going to read this one, I cannot recommend the audiobook read by Rob Lowe himself enough. He is fabulous. He is also a fantastic impersonator, and there is a scene in the book where he actually meets Cary Grant, and he can do a Cary Grant accent. I mean, it sounded like Cary Grant to me. It was wonderful. I really enjoyed his voice and the way that he told his stories. And I do have kind of a soft spot for celebrity memoirs. Like sometimes I am just in the mood for something that feels a bit like a popcorn type of read, like you just want to keep popping kernels into your mouth, or you just want to keep turning the pages. And sometimes a really well done celebrity memoir will do that for me. And Rob Lowe's is top of the top. It is by far the best celebrity memoir I've ever read, and I cannot recommend it enough. And moving on to the summer of 2018, my favorite read from summer of 2018 is a book that I really need to reread this one because I loved this so much. And that is Mornings with Rosemary by Libby Page. This was actually originally titled The Lido, or the Lido. I know some of my British viewers have told me, I think you guys say the Lido. I've always pronounced it Lido, like the Lido deck on the Love Boat. Does anyone remember that from the 80s or 70s or whenever the Love Boat was on TV? They had the Lido deck. Anyway, I digress. But whether you call it Mornings with Rosemary or the Lido/the Lido, this is such a lovely read. We have a friendship between an older woman and a younger woman. They come together and there's a lot of sort of like community feeling and found family. The two women meet because Kate, the younger woman in the story, is writing an article about the closing of the Lido, which is the local community swimming pool. And Rosemary is somebody who uses the pool every day. She swims every day, and she and Kate meet, and you start learning about Rosemary's life and about how important this swimming pool has been to her and to the community and everything. And so then there's sort of this campaign that begins to save the Lido. I just thought this was so wonderful. I love Libby Page's writing, and I have her newest book sitting on my shelf waiting to be read. This book made me think of you, and I really want to get to it very, very soon because I just think she's a lovely writer, and yeah, I just love this book. It's huggable. This is a huggable book. Now moving on to 2019. 2019 and 2026 are actually colliding at the moment because my favorite read from summer of 2019, I am actually currently in the middle of rereading, and that is Gift from the Sea by Anne Morrow Lindbergh. This book, I posted about this book on my Instagram stories last week, and I said, reading this was like letting out a breath you didn't know you were holding. It is so contemplative and reflective and soft and calm. And if you are a woman of any age, I think you should read this book. It is just fabulous. It really is all about women's lives and carving out time and space for ourselves and how to do that and why it's important, and just kind of, figuring out your life and, obligations and family and friends and love and heartache and all of that stuff. And this is such a wonderful book. I really do think every woman should read this. Men should read it too because it is lovely, but it's definitely directed towards women and women's lives. So if you've never read this one, I cannot recommend it enough. I actually just talked about this in my short books for summer video. If you'd like to give that a watch, I will link it here and in the description box below. But this is just such a soothing read. So if that's what you need, definitely pick this one up. I adore this book. And now 2020. I think we can all remember where we were and what we were doing in summer of 2020. And I think for the most of us, we were stuck at home. I know I was. And my reading in 2020 was all over the map. I was having trouble concentrating. I was doing a lot of rereading of just light, fluffy books because that was really all my brain could handle at that moment in time. But I did read a few other books that were real standouts, and none of them more so than this gem of a family epic saga, and that is The Thornbirds by Colleen McCullough. I just loved this book so much. I think for those of us that grew up in the 1980s, we can all remember the mini series that was on TV, which I still have not watched, but I am thinking about doing a reread of this book next summer and then watching the miniseries immediately after. I may even do a read along of this here on my channel. So if anyone's interested in that, please let me know. But this is such a great summer read, such an epic, sweeping family saga set in the Australian outback. And oh, it just captured me and I could not put it down. It is a real page turner. If you've never read it, definitely give it a try. I will say it's maybe not a book for everyone. There are some topics dealt with in it that may not appeal to every reader. So you may want to do a little research on that first before you pick it up. But I do think if you love a family saga though, you should absolutely read The Thornbirds. It is fantastic, it's unputdownable, and it will always remain one of my very favorite books. Now on to summer 2021. And I think 2021 was the year that I discovered middle grade March. And I had so much fun reading middle grade books in March that year that I really kind of kept on doing that throughout the rest of the year, and I've continued to do it ever since. Even though I've always read middle grade books throughout my reading life, even as an adult, but I definitely made a more concerted effort to seek out middle grade books after learning about middle grade March. And this middle grade book that I read in summer 2021 is one of my very favorites. I talk about it a lot, but it has to be on this list, and that is Short by Holly Goldberg Sloan. Again, this was also in my recent short books for summer video, so I'm going to again direct you to that video so you can hear all of my thoughts about Short. But basically we're following a young girl and she's cast in The Wizard of Oz, and because she's very short, she's cast as a munchkin, and it's about sort of her life over the course of the summer of doing this production of The Wizard of Oz and the people that she meets and the friends and sort of found family that the theater community creates for her, and just kind of how she learns to inhabit being short and being who she is. And I just love this. I felt like it was written just for me, and it is a lovely, lovely middle grade read. I really like Holly Goldberg Sloan's books, and this one is my favorite. And now for my favorite read from summer 2022. Actually, I was really surprised that I had only first read this book in 2022. I feel like it's a book that's been in my life for such a long time now, and that is The Fairy Tale Girl by Susan Branch. And this is the first book chronologically in her memoir trilogy of her life, though A Fine Romance was actually published first. But if you want to read them in chronological order and kind of follow her life, then definitely read The Fairy Tale Girl first. This is about her childhood and growing up and her young adult life and her first marriage, and it's just everything you want from Susan Branch. I mean, she's just a delight, isn't she? I love everything about her and all of her writing and her beautiful artwork. I mean, how can you not love this? Timeless tips from the Tuesday girls. It's a girl thing. I love Susan Branch. I have a whole video dedicated to her. I will also link that here and in the description box below for you. So please be sure to check that out if you're a Susan Branch fan, or if you're not and you want to learn more about her. I know so many of you love her though, and yes, The Fairy Tale Girl, definitely my favorite read from summer 2022. And I can basically say the same thing for my favorite book from summer 2023 as I could for The Fairy Tale Girl, because again, this is another book that I can't believe it was only 2023 when I read this book for the first time. And I can remember sitting here in my reading room on my chaise lounge, which is behind the camera, and binge reading this book over the course of basically 24 hours. And that book is The Blue Castle by L.M. Montgomery. This book, I just feel like everyone should read this book because it's so wonderful. In this, we're following Valency Sterling. Valency is really kept under the thumb of her family. They don't let her do anything, and her life and world are very small until she receives a medical diagnosis that changes her life, and she basically throws caution to the wind and decides she's gonna live her life the way she wants to. And we follow along with what happens to her, and again, this is another huggable book. I absolutely love it. I adore this edition that came in the spring Small Home Comforts book box this year. I really need to reread this one again because I just adore it, and it's such a quick read, and I just can't recommend it enough. Again, like I said, everyone should read this one because it is fabulous. Did I say fabulous a lot in this video? I think I have, but I stand by it. Only 2 more summer reads to go. We are up to summer 2024. And for summer 2024, my favorite read that summer was actually a book that we picked for the Cozy Reader Book Club. The Cozy Reader Book Club started in 2024, and our June pick for the Cozy Reader Book Club that year was Hannah Coulter by Wendell Berry. And this was my first Wendell Berry book, but I definitely want to read more by him, even though I haven't as of yet. Hannah Coulter is part of Wendell Berry's Port William series of books. I think they're all kind of just loosely connected with characters that cross over. One of his other books, Jayber Crow shows up in Hannah Coulter. And in this, we are following Hannah, and she is an elderly protagonist, and she is basically just looking back at her life, and you sort of follow along with her. And I just loved Hannah and her voice. I don't know if you can see, but I tabbed up so many passages in this book, and it was just a pure delight to read and discuss with the Cozy Reader Book Club. I loved this book. I loved Hannah, and yes, I really need to read more Wendell Berry. I really want to read Jayber Crow next, I think, but if you've read other Wendell Berry books, let me know what else I should read by him, because I just loved his writing in this, and oh, it was wonderful. I can't recommend it enough. And now for my final favorite summer read from the past 10 years. We are up to last summer of 2025. I had a hard time deciding which book I wanted to pick as my favorite from last summer because I read a lot of amazing books. Actually, both summer 2024 and summer 2025 were so hard to choose, but I ended up going with this one because it's just a book that has stayed with me, and it's one I know I want to reread, and that is One Afternoon by Sean James. And this book, this is the Persephone edition. It was published back in 1975, and I ended up picking this one up because Miranda Mills had talked about this in one of her videos and said it reminded her of a Rosamund Pilcher novel. And that was all I needed to hear. And so I definitely wanted to read it. But when I actually sat down and read it, and when I finished it, my thought was it was actually more of a cross between Rosamund Pilcher and Laurie Colwin. And as those are two of my favorite authors, of course, this book was a favorite read from last year. This is following a young widow who has 3 young girls that she's raising, but she is having a relationship with a younger man. And through the course of the book, you just really get to know Anna, who is our main character, our widowed mother. And you know, she has her fair share of struggles, and then she has this relationship which gives her a lot of joy, but is it really going to be sustainable or feasible? Is it the right move for her girls, for their family, you know, to continue this relationship? And it's just such a great, insightful novel looking at one woman's life and choices and, you know, just kind of struggling through the day-to-day realities of being a mother and a widow and a girlfriend, and just kind of how all of those things collide. I just love this. And again, this is another one I need to reread before too long, because a mashup of Laurie Colwin and Rosamund Pilcher is just, it's like the dead center of my wheelhouse for reading, and I love this so very much. And that'll wrap up my 10 favorite summer reads from the past 10 summers. I hope you enjoyed coming along with me for this little retrospective reading list. I was a little bit concerned when I started going back because I feel like my reading has changed a lot over the last 10 years. And I wasn't sure that my favorite books from 2016, 2017 would it all feel like books I would want to read still today, but they actually are. And I think that the books that have stood the test of time really, stood the test of time for my personal reading life. But I think it just goes to show that the core of my reading taste hasn't really changed all that much. Like, I'm still drawn to characters I can fall in love with, to wonderfully told stories, to books that make me feel something heartwarming and joyful or cathartic or whatever it might be. That, I think, is something I've always been drawn to, and I can see that over the course of these 10 years of favorite summer books. I would love to know, what are some of your favorite summer reads from summers gone by? And if you look back at your reading, do you see any changes, any fluctuations in what you enjoyed 10 years ago versus what you like now? Let's talk all things historical summer reading. And if you enjoyed this video, let me know if you'd like to see similar things to this. If you'd like me to go back and share books that I read 10 years ago. I could do it seasonally, or I could do it in a few different formats. Let me know if this is something you enjoyed. While I want to put out videos that inspire me, I also want to put out videos that are interesting to all of you as well. So give me your thoughts on that down in the comments. And if you're here, but you don't have anything you'd like to add in the comments, but you'd like to let me know that you were here, because comments really help my channel, let's leave something time related, a clock, a watch. I don't know what kind of emojis there are that have to do with time, but leave me something time related down in the comments. I love seeing those and knowing that you were here. And if you enjoyed this video, if you could hit that like button and also the hype button if you're on the YouTube mobile app, both of those things really help me out and help new viewers to find my channel. And if you're a new viewer, I would love it if you haven't already done so, if you could hit that subscribe button and stick around and join my cozy corner of BookTube. Thank you all so much for all of your lovely comments on my recent videos. I so appreciate it, and I love chatting with you. I will be back again very soon with another video, and until then, I wish you a good book and a warm cuppa. Bye!